What are you doing? I drove to a park famous for its orchards, and there I met a pregnant woman. Incredibly, she was rummaging through the trash. Moreover, her clothes were tattered, and she looked like she hadn't bathed in days. Yet, this woman was unmistakably my son's wife. "Kathy, what happened to you?" As soon as I spoke to her, she shook her head, denying it was her, and tried to flee. There was no mistaking her, so I instinctively grabbed her arm, and she was extremely thin. Startled, I heard her stomach growl. "Are you hungry? Would you like to eat this?" I took out the lunch I had with me and handed it to her. Then she swallowed and in a fading voice said,
"Thank you very much."
She grabbed the lunch as if snatching it and quickly left the scene. Left behind, I stood there dumbfounded. She looked exactly like Kathy. Distressed by the sight of a pregnant woman who resembled my daughter-in-law and was hungry, I took out my smartphone from my bag and called Wally. "Keith, I just met Kathy at a park about an hour away from your house."
Huh, what are you talking about? She just gave birth. I was about to contact you.
Wally happily talked about how the baby boy born just a short while ago looked like him, and firmly denied that it was his wife. But wasn't her due date still a month away?
Early births happen all the time.
Even for her first child. Somehow unsatisfied, I pressed on.
Hey, cut it out. Aren't you happy your grandson was born?
That's not it at all. I'm sorry.
Stop talking nonsense. There are plenty of people who look alike.
Of course, I'm thrilled about the birth of my grandson, but I couldn't shake off the scene I had just witnessed, and I ended up mentioning that I gave the lunch away.
What are you doing? You old lady, fell for a lunch scam. Don't go to that park again. Next time, they'll strip you bare.
How rude, what a thing to say. Keith didn't seem to care that I was upset, and continued in a cheerful tone throughout the call. "Does this mean that it's true my daughter-in-law gave birth, and I mistook the pregnant woman at the park for her?" Feeling like I was tricked by a fox, I fell silent.
Maybe, now that dad's retired and mom's 63, she's finally starting to lose it, ho.
That's not true at all. Fine, I'll go see Kathy's child myself. Irritated by his tone, I ended the call with Keith and drove about an hour. I had asked my daughter-in-law which hospital she was giving birth at, and I safely arrived there using navigation. There, Keith was looking around at the entrance waiting for me. "Did you wait for me?"
Well, actually, the delivery took a while, and Kathy's condition worsened.
Because of this, I was told that visitation wasn't possible right now. Since I came all this way, I couldn't just return home without seeing my grandson. Keith took me to the newborn room and showed me the baby briefly through the glass. He's adorable.
Well, he's my son after all.
And how is Kathy doing?
Well, she should be fine.
While I didn't want to insist on meeting her right after giving birth, as she was tired, something about Keith's demeanor caught my attention. Back home, as I was preparing dinner, I kept thinking about the incident in the park. But really, who did I meet? Kathy's only relative is her father, and it doesn't seem like she has any sisters. Moreover, having met my son and his wife several times over the 3 years they've been married, there's no way I could have mistaken Kathy. They say there are at least 3 people in the world who look exactly like us, so it must have been a case of mistaken identity after all. Despite telling myself that, a new question arose. Why was a woman with a big belly rummaging through trash in the park? Worried, I woke up early in the morning and went to the park, hoping to meet the woman who looked just like Kathy. However, I couldn't find the pregnant woman with the big belly, and despite visiting several more times, I never saw her again. Over 10 days had passed, and I was about to give up, thinking she might no longer be there, when I stopped by a convenience store on my way home. She's here. There she was, the woman who looked just like Kathy. However, out of hunger, she was caught by a clerk for shoplifting a lunch and was being held by the arm so she wouldn't escape.
I'm gonna turn you into the police.
The clerk's voice was filled with anger, and she trembled while tears formed in her eyes. Seeing this, I instantly stepped in front of her. "Oh, I'm sorry. Were you mistaken for a shoplifter?"
Huh?
"Excuse me, sir. My daughter-in-law forgot her purse, so I came to deliver it. I'll pay right away. How much is it?"
Don't act suspicious.
As I pulled out my wallet at the register, the clerk scratched his head and scolded her in a stern voice, looking quite embarrassed. The woman could only lower her gaze and cry, so I kept apologizing on her behalf until the clerk was finally convinced. "Come on, let's go." As I left the store, she obediently followed behind me.
Thank you.
She apologized in such a quiet voice that I almost missed it, but her stomach was growling again, possibly from hunger. "No need to cry anymore. I'll give you this. In return, let's have a little chat." The woman hesitated for a moment, but her hunger probably won out. She nodded slightly. First, without saying a word, I had her sit on a bench in the nearby park and eat the lunch, which she devoured eagerly, almost choking. She looks exactly like Kathy. While I was checking on her, I found a familiar birthmark on the nape of her neck. While I was checking on her, I found a familiar birthmark on the nape of her neck. It is shaped like a rather distinctive flower. Same place, same birthmark, and even the same shape. It can't just be a coincidence. But if she ran away again, that would be it. So I controlled my eagerness not to startle her. "It looks like you're pregnant. Are you about to have the baby soon?" The woman nodded, rice grains sticking to her cheek, and when I asked why she was living this way, she started to tell her story bit by bit. As I asked her questions that got to the bottom of the matter, she told me that she was originally in the mountains, but it took her many days to reach the park and make a living. As I gently smiled and listened without interrupting, she gradually began to open up. "That stuff, isn't it?" I empathized with her, nodding along as she spoke. Then, with tears welling up in her eyes, she began to reveal more about her dire situation. How fortunate I found her. The more I heard, the more pitiful it seemed, and it also uncovered some frightening truths, leaving me stunned. I can't just leave you like this. Come stay at our house." However, the anxious woman looked perplexed and covered her mouth as if she had said too much by accident. "Don't worry, I'll make sure you and your baby are safe." When I looked into her eyes and held her hand tightly, she felt reassured and finally agreed. After taking her home, my husband, Mike, was quite shocked. But once I explained the situation, he understood and wanted to help her as well. Then he made a call to a certain place. From Mike, I was able to obtain some shocking information. A few days later, thinking that Kathy must have given birth and left the hospital with the baby by now, I pressed Keith's number on my smartphone. "I'm bringing a baby shower gift to Keith's house."
Oh, she's gone back to her hometown now.
"Why? Kathy shouldn't have a place to return to, right?" Then Keith suddenly became flustered and spoke rapidly.
What are you talking about, Mom? Have you gone senile? Seriously, spare me the dementia talk.
Oh, was I mistaken? I opened the front door while still on the phone. Suddenly seeing his own house's door open and me standing there, Keith was momentarily stunned. Actually, I had been calling from right in front of Keith's house.
Mom, why?
That's why I said I was coming. It's careless not to lock the front door. I'm coming in. As I entered without waiting, there was Keith and an unfamiliar woman. So, who is this person?
Don't just barge in. There's a lot going on here.
Why is she holding the baby? As I bombarded him with questions, Keith scratched his head and sighed. Then he looked at me as if he had made up his mind to do something.
I was going to talk about this later. This is Rachel, my new wife.
What? What happened to Kathy? Isn't she about to give birth? Keith was evasive and replied, she went back to her parents' home. Her father passed away, so she shouldn't have any home to go back to.
Oh, is that so?
I stepped closer to Keith, giving him a stern look. Just after Kathy's father died, you kick out your pregnant wife. That's shameful, even for my own son.
Mom, are you dreaming?
Enough with the dodging. I know you left Kathy in the mountains. Indeed, the woman near term I met at the park was undeniably Kathy. During our talk after leaving the convenience store, she finally confided everything that had happened. By the way, she's being taken care of at our place. Keith clicked his tongue in annoyance.
What, you knew?
Keith began making excuses.
It was Kathy he cheated first. The child in her belly is another man's.
Keith insisted bitterly. That's why he kicked Kathy out and started a new path with Rachel, the woman here with him. Let's do a DNA test to see whose story is true. I pulled out a swab that had been sent by a private testing facility. As I did so, Keith shook his head furiously, refusing. So I gently picked a strand of hair that had fallen onto his shoulder. Just in case, I'll take Keith's toothbrush too.
Stop it. Stop doing whatever you want.
Be quiet. If it turns out you are the father of Kathy's baby, I'll file a police report, so be prepared. Keith seemed unaware that leaving a pregnant woman in the middle of winter in the mountains could be criminal. Despite such atrocious behavior, Keith pleaded for me to settle things quietly. What to do with you, I'll ask her directly. I went to the entrance, opened the door, and invited Kathy and Mike, who had been waiting in the car, into the house. Mike with his heavy footsteps, and Kathy with a fierce look on her face entered. Keith must not have expected these two to come with me. As Kathy stepped closer and closer, Keith began to sweat and slowly back away.
Kathy, thank goodness you're safe.
Don't joke. I have no intention of forgiving you for falsely accusing me and putting our baby at risk.
But since you're safe now, can't we just say all's well that ends well?
That's not funny at all. Do you understand how I felt having to travel for days from the foot of the mountain to the park, desperately trying to make it?
About a month ago, Kathy was invited by Keith for a drive, and while enjoying the scenery, she was left behind. She managed to make it to the park, but was too scared of what Keith might do to return home. Thus, she started living in the park, which had water and restroom facilities. Moreover, Kathy's father had passed away 2 months ago, leaving her without a family home to rely on. Just thinking about how vulnerable she must have felt makes my heart ache. On top of that, Kathy was under the impression that we believed she had cheated and gotten pregnant, as Keith had angrily told her so. She even thought that if we found her, she would be sent to the next world, as he had told her. The reason she tried to flee instead of seeking help when she met me was because of all this. Explain why you did such a terrible thing.
If I explain, will you keep the police out of this?
Well, I'll think about it. Come on, hurry up and tell me. Shouted at by me and glared at by Mike, Keith, perhaps realizing he could no longer evade the truth, opened his mouth reluctantly.
I got close with Rachel at a high school reunion 7 months ago, and she got pregnant right away. It must be fate.
That's no reason to abandon Kathy.
Rachel is the same age as me, but Kathy is 3 years older, a real old maid. Besides, Rachel's father owns a company, so eventually I can take over.
Not only that, but it was said that Kathy's baby would likely be a girl. Since Rachel's child is a boy, Keith spouted all sorts of excuses about being able to leave the company to him as his successor after he becomes the boss.
By the way, I've already divorced Kathy and registered my marriage with Rachel, so it's too late.
I don't remember signing any divorce papers.
I forged your signature.
Keith boldly declared this. That's forgery of official documents. A crime.
What? Really?
As much as he's my own son, I can't just let him continue like this. So you've just added one crime on top of another. You're truly the worst.
I've told you everything, so don't get the police involved.
I'm cutting ties with a good-for-nothing like you. Don't ever contact us again. Unfazed by the possibility of not involving the police, Keith responded calmly, "As you wish." He seemed oblivious to his father, who had been silently giving him a fearsome glare from behind Kathy. For Keith, money and status must be everything right now. We were completely appalled by Keith's lack of remorse, but I decided to share a piece of crucial information. You know Rachel's father's company is about to go under, right? Are you okay with that?
What?
My father worked with his company before he retired. I got the news from an old subordinate.
No, wait.
Good luck turning around a company that's drowning in debt,
That can't be true.
Keith asserted.
I heard it from someone reliable, so there's no mistake.
Mike replied.
That's not possible, right? That can't be true, right?
Keith kept asking Rachel over and over. However, she remained silent and looked down. Her demeanor was perhaps the biggest proof of all.
For starters, give back the savings you took by falsely accusing me of cheating and the life insurance policy of my father.
The savings are joint property, right?
The money was from before our marriage, which I had been saving since I was young. It should be about $38,000, right?
I've already spent the savings.
Keith muttered, sighing heavily. Kathy insisted on getting everything back and confronted Keith. Faced with these unexpected facts, the foolish son was only able to widen his eyes in shock. Moreover, you can't receive my father's life insurance money, Keith. You're not a legal heir. Faced with further setbacks, my son's body began to tremble. Then, he directed his frustration at Rachel.
How could you deceive me? My dream of becoming a president is crumbling down. What are you going to do about this?
It's your fault for being fooled.
Rachel replied, and an ugly argument began between them.
I was looking for a man to support me at the reunion because my father's company was in trouble.
As they continued to hurl insults at each other, Rachel revealed her motive. She had reconnected with Keith at the reunion and got pregnant, thinking everything was going according to her plan. Keith is terrible, but Rachel is equally manipulative. In a way, they are similar and perhaps suit each other. However, I was fed up with watching their squabble, so I clapped my hands loudly. Enough. Okay, that's enough. Hey, Rachel, was your child premature?
No, he was born on the expected due date.
I'm not asking you. Generally, childbirth takes about 9 months, so he shouldn't have been born this early.
What?
Keith pulled out his smartphone from his pocket and began checking to confirm the truth. After a moment of realization, he glared at Rachel.
Did you lie to me? He was the father of that child.
Rachel bit her lip and remained silent. It looks like we need a DNA test for Keith and Rachel. I handed Keith the swab that had been sent from the testing lab. As Keith approached the baby with the swab, Rachel quickly moved the child away from him. Keith's face fell into despair.
It's a lie.
Seeing is believing. There's no need for a test. Keith and Rachel, you each owe Kathy $20,000 in damages for infidelity. At my words, Keith's eyes widened as if he had been hit by a shock.
What? Why?
It's only fair. Plus, we'll add damages for the distress caused to Kathy. And that's not all. You'll also be paying $600 a month for child support until the child is 20.
Wait a minute. I'm going to be drowning in debt.
Hearing the specific amounts, sweat dripped down Keith's forehead. All these are just the consequences of your own actions. Oh, and you'll be dealing with the police too.
Wait. You said if I told you everything, you wouldn't call the police.
I've decided to report it after all. Tough luck. Apparently terrified of being arrested, Keith fell to his knees and begged me for mercy.
Mom, please, forgive me.
You're apologizing to the wrong person.
Kathy, I'm truly sorry. Please forgive me.
Keith quickly turned around and bowed his head to the floor, but such frivolous words were not going to convince Kathy. Behind Kathy, Mike, with a face like a demon, continued to glare at Keith. Then Keith began to say something unexpected.
Dad, you're a man too. You must have cheated once or twice, right?
I haven't. Don't lump me in with trash like you.
Mike leaned in close to Keith, furrowing his brow, and spoke in a firm, low voice. Realizing no one was on his side, Keith collapsed weakly to the ground.
Please, help me.
Endangering Kathy and her inborn child during pregnancy is an incredibly serious crime.
I'll change myself.
I'm not gonna listen to you anymore. Oh, I see red lights approaching. Thanks for the great timing with the call, Dad. Keith, assuming I hadn't yet called the police, widened his eyes in shock. At that moment, Rachel tried to seize the opportunity to escape, but Mike quickly apprehended her. You're not getting away on your own. You'll have plenty of time to reflect behind high walls. Without any chance to resist, realizing it was over, I handed Keith and Rachel over to the police. After being interrogated by the police, Keith and Rachel were charged with conspiring to put Kathy and her inborn child in danger, resulting in serious charges. Additionally, Keith was charged with forgery for faking the divorce papers. I arranged for a legal professional to sell the couple's house, which was under mortgage, but managed to break even. Keith was made to agree to pay a total of $30,000 for infidelity and emotional distress, plus Kathy's $38,000 savings and $600 monthly for child support. Rachel was charged the same amount for infidelity and emotional pain. Rachel's father's company went bankrupt quickly, so both Keith and Rachel would have to find whatever work they could once outside to make their payments. Oh, and by the way, it turned out that Rachel's child was from another classmate, and the biological father agreed to raise the child. Thankfully, the child was spared any misfortune. Kathy later gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. After discussing with Mike, we decided to formally adopt Kathy and have her live with us. With the sound of a healthy baby's laughter filling our home, we've been enjoying our days, busily taking care of our expanded family.